Section 2. Thank You Legend. Mithali Raj is the proud face of Indian women's cricket. Yet, she has faced the greatest failure for a sportsperson, an entire career gone by without winning the ultimate prize, the World Cup. This thoughtful essay holds a valuable lesson for life. I love stories. Stories have everything you know. As a child, I loved stories that had happy endings. But as I grew up, I realized stories are not perfect. So today, I'm here to tell you a story with everything. A rough start, a brilliant plot, redemptions, controversies, and an ending that gives you a tear in the eye. India is a cricket-crazy nation, and with craziness comes the fandom, the expectations, and the pressure to stay on top, especially in a male-dominated sport where nobody cared about the women's team. An 8-year-old girl would finish her homework beside the boundary of St. John's Cricket Academy in Sikandrabad. This was not a punishment. She did this to avoid nodding off her favorite pastime. Out of boredom, after her homework, the girl would pick a dozen balls and hit them as far as she could. A watchful eye noticed that batting arc, those swift movements, and the step down to hit the ball. It was enough to convince then-coach Jyoti Prasad, the man who gifted India one of the finest pair of wrists in the form of VVS Lakshman, that the girl had potential. From her first love for sleep to her eternal love of cricket, I bet even Jyoti Prasad wouldn't have thought that he was nurturing arguable the greatest ever batter to play cricket, Mithali Raj. Today, Mithali Raj and Jhulan Goswami stand as the only link between two different eras of women's cricket. After playing domestic cricket for Railways, Mithali was named in the 1997 Cricket World Cup probables at the age of 14. Her story started with a hiccup as she failed to make it to the final squad. The year that followed the 1997 World Cup was a year of no cricket. Many players dropped off due to a lack of funding and a dearth of talent. Amidst all this darkness arrived ferociously talented Mithali Raj. She made her debut in 1999 at Milton Keynes against Ireland. What followed next was a storm nobody expected. Mithali blazed her way to a whooping 140 not out. From that day on, whenever India's batting collapsed, her performance stood as a beacon of hope and optimism for everyone. Then came the big moment which every cricketer dreams of, playing in whites for their country. At the age of 19, when you go on the big stage, you have stage fright. Proving that she is immortal as us, Mithali scored a duck in her first innings in Lucknow. She travelled to England just after the rains in August 2002. This was in an age when the Indian men's team would travel to England with great fanfare, but only ever return as losers. The Indian women's team was not given a tenth of the attention or fanfare. Playing only her third test, the 19-year-old Indian batter made 14 of 407 deliveries with 14 fours and some excellent running between the wickets. It was a masterclass in batting. She broke the world record, surpassing Corinne Rowlton's 209. She made everyone rise and applaud at a time when an Indian male cricketer was finding it hard to score in England. The way she made the runs enthralled those on the ground, not the runs themselves. Senior players who had seen her as a miserable and lonely 14-year-old at India's World Cup preparation camp in 1997 were astounded by her stroke play and assurance.
How could such a small and young kid have such strength?
Wondered those who had watched her grow into a world-class batter. Mithali claims she has never been in the same batting zone as she was on that cold Taunton day. The confidence and the masterclass came as a surprise to almost everyone, apart from a few people back in Hyderabad. Let's rewind a bit. In 1995, Sampath Kumar, the head coach of Hyderabad's two age group teams, enrolled Dorai Raj's daughter in training on the recommendation of Jyoti Prasad. When Sampath saw Mithali bat, he altered her father.
I need you and your wife to trust me totally. I require blind backing. By the time Mithali turns 14, I will make her play for the country.
Dorai Raj was skeptical.
He is bluffing.
I told my wife. It seemed implausible. Sampath reasoned that he would hit the moon if he shot for the stars. He believed Mithali would make it by 16 if she missed selection at 14. Mithali's mother, Leela, recalls, he didn't want to set the bar too low. Then only 10-year-old Mithali had to choose between her love for dance and sleep or cricket. For a 10-year-old to give up on her dream can be shattering, as it was for me when I gave up on my favorite bat when it broke. A normal childhood was out of the question. Sampath made her practice striking straight in the cramped corridors of a school in addition to 6-hour coaching sessions. When she was selected at the age of 14, everyone thought that Sampath and Mithali's dream to make the international debut at 14 would come true. Like every other story, this one took an unexpected. Sampath died in a road accident, and his favorite disciple, inches behind the first finish line, went numb. It was a dream story gone wrong, with one character gone forever, and the other was overwhelmed and deemed unfit for that level of glory. Mithali was hired as a clerk on the sports quota by the railways in 2000, thanks to Dina Idulji, a former Indian captain. She came across teammates G.S. Lakshmi and Rajni Venugopal, both of whom were a decade her senior. It was a competitive atmosphere. Venugopal and Mithali competed for a spot on occasion, but their friendship was unaffected. In multiple interviews, Mithali accepted how the two seniors helped her grow. By 2003, the Indian squad was incomplete without a certain 21-year-old. Mithali became synonymous with Indian women's cricket. With all the buzz and her natural charisma, a captaincy offer was inevitable. Everyone advised her to say yes when it came, but being the team player that she was, Mithali decided to become the deputy to Mamata Mabin. No one knew that Mithali had rejected the captaincy. At such a young age, I'm not sure how many people would refuse a responsibility of this stature. Mithali became captain in 2005 and led India to their first World Cup final, 2 years after the Indian men's team lost to Australia. Mithali was instrumental in the semis, scoring a 91 not out against New Zealand. What unfolded in the final was nothing new. It was the same script as the 2003 World Cup final. Australia scored big and bundled India out to continue its domination. But what followed next for India was huge. They set a benchmark for the first time in the 30 years of international cricket, which promised a bright future ahead. The biggest of them was the Women's Cricket Association India merger with BCCI. Women's Cricket India was getting its due in small increments. With Mithali Raj as leader, the Indian women's team has won 4 Asia Cup titles. In the Asia Cup 2005-2006, 2006 and 2008 editions, India defeated Sri Lanka thrice in the finals. By 2009, women's cricket started changing significantly, with India producing more talent than ever. Now people started following the game. Meanwhile, Mithali began to suffer knee problems, inevitable effects of pushing the body that all sports persons face. She was spending more and more time with physiotherapists, and rumors of an impending marriage also swirled because at the grand old age of 27, she was apparently aging. Mithali's team was dominant in Asia but was always floored by Aussies, Kiwis, and the Brits. The 2013 Cricket World Cup presented perfect chance for India to excel on home soil. But like before, the story twisted and turned with India finishing at 7th position among 8 teams. It was a catastrophe and Mithali was held responsible. Echoes of captaincy change and a revamp of Team India were heard around the corner. But the question was, if not Mithali, then who? With no clear answer, a rebuild happened, but with Mithali at the centre again, intended to win the 2017 World Cup. Mithali Raj's team set a record by winning 16 consecutive matches, dominating even the mighty Aussies. 2017 World Cup was rumoured to be the last dance for one of the game's greats. India started the tournament on a high note and went to the finals before faltering at the finish line by the barest of margins. Yet again, India failed and Mithali failed. The nation was shattered and so were the players. But it was a huge success as the nation formed a solid team with another army of superstars. Smriti Mandhana, Harmanpreet Kaur, Poonam Raut and many more. Mithali failed to win the 5th World Cup for India held in 2022. While failures are always tough to swallow, the harder part is getting up. Mithali Raj was much more than just the captain of the Indian women's team. Here is the name that built Indian cricket for 20 years. The 2005 win against New Zealand inspired a 12-year-old Veda Krishnamurthy to pick up the bat and dream of playing with her idol. As a 9-year-old, Smriti Mandhana broke into Maharashtra's under-15 squad, training at Sangli's Lone Net facility the year India reached the World Cup final for the first time. I'm not here to list her achievements that you can probably Google. I'm here to tell you the story of a woman who proves that sometimes you can win even when you seem to have lost. Mithali Raj's greatest achievements are not her wins, but the fact that her mere presence adds composure and steadiness to a unit that would otherwise appear timid. She is someone who stands for principles that are now deemed outdated. Yet, they are much like the odd delight of listening to cricket commentary on a summer days on a handheld radio. Mithali Raj is a throwback to an era when the skill of self-preservation and dependability were considered virtues, unlike now when histrionics and bang-bang cricket are the norm. Perhaps this is why, in an era where Chris Gayle and David Warner are regarded giants, a Rahul Dravid remains relevant, if not essential. As she calls it a day, all of us probably wish she had a World Cup to her home. But I'm sure when we look back, we will remember a masterful architect who built the core of Indian women's cricket brick by brick. The story of Mithali Raj is the story of Indian women's cricket. Thank you.